Welcome to the latest edition of the Celtics Rundown live stream here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. And back with me today, two GFOPs, good friends of the program. We have Jack Simone, the editor-in-chief over at Hardwood Houdini and the captain of the ship at How About Them Celtics. And we got Sam LaFrance from Celtics blog, the other half of How About Them Celtics. Gentlemen, we'll start with you, Jack. How you doing?
I'm good. Whenever someone laughs in an intro, I like break character for a second. I get thrown up, but I'm good.
We'd start with some levity off the bat.
Got him. And I'm the jester from How About Them Celtics. He is my captain, absolutely.
I'm glad you picked up on
Be
what the
here.
joke was.
Excited about it.
Jack, you're all good?
I'm good. I said I'm good. Sorry, I got thrown off by Sam's. I don't even know what to say. I'm good. I'm ready to go.
Obviously, Sam's work is exceptional. Just a joke. People know him. If you're tuning into this live stream, there's probably a less than 10% chance you aren't familiar with Sam and his work. Sam, how we doing?
I'm good. I think it's very fair that someone would not be familiar with me, and that's absolutely fine.
No,
happy to be hanging out with the fellas, though. Two of my favorite Celtics people.
Last time that you two were on, we had 5,000 viewers. I'll stand by roughly 10% is the group that is unfamiliar with Sam. I think if you're on here, you know him and his great work. So we start here. We're going to start by focusing on the Magic series, and then we will end by discussing what might be ahead for the Celtics in round 2 between the Knicks and Sam's beloved Pistons. So Jack, let's kick it over to you first. What are your prevailing takeaways from that round 1 series against a physical, taxing Orlando Magic team?
Yeah, I said it to Sam yesterday. I think everyone's looking at how the Celtics were able to win without threes. My biggest thing is the Jays. After last postseason, where everyone criticized Jason Tatum for not being efficient, got carried by his team, which wasn't true at the time, but that was the prevailing narrative. To see him go out in game 5, I should think he shot 10 of 16 from the field, 4 or 5 from 3, 11 of 11 from the free throw line. It was at 61% true shooting for the entire series. Absolutely dominated the Magic. The plus minus with him on the court was incredible. Him start the playoffs like that was a great sign for what's to come. And then on top of that, Jaylen Brown, who is so clearly injured, to see him still have, I think, around as well 60% true shooting in the series, push the pace enough to the point where the Celtics offense has improved in games 4 and 5, and have such an impactful series on basically one leg. The fact that those guys are able to start off the playoffs in that way and beat the Magic in 5 games, I think is a good sign for what's to come for the Celtics.
Absolutely. And Sam, your takeaway is just sizing up this series?
Yeah, I mean, so this series was not pretty. We had a great chat about this over on HBTC yesterday, and every single game had a moment where Orlando felt that they could win. They were in game 1, in game 2, they were in game 5 at the Garden, they win game 3, and game 4 goes down to the wire in Orlando. The Celtics did a tremendous job of finishing the series strong. I don't really know how much that's worth, right? They have to play a whole new team, but guys like Sam Hauser, Peyton Pritchard, and Luke Cornett all having really good games off the bench in game 5, I think bodes well when you're looking to get them going, because they were not the great series. I think Pritchard was the best of the 3. He had a pretty consistent showing, wasn't fantastic down in Orlando, but to see him finish the way he did, where he just looked like he was in his element, he was cooking. It looked like the regular season. Didn't look like there was any pressure on him. He was making tough shots. Same could be said for the other two making the impact in the way that they're able to. The Celtics are going to need everybody. It's what separates them from a team like the Knicks, who have a great starting 5. They have a lot of guys who are quality players. They have guys that they gave up a lot of capital to bring in to compete with the Celtics, but in exchange, they had to gut their bench. And you can see how much that's affected them even against the Pistons. Said to Jack, very sad to see a team rely on campaign in the playoffs. Not good.
Yeah, that's pretty tragic right there. Although he did have a strong showing in game 1. So he gave him something.
That's
And
the
then
one. That's it.
That's the Uno. And
For the whole
what I'll
playoff.
add to, yeah, that's probably all they get. But what I'll add to what you guys touched on from looking back on that opening round against Orlando is not surprising by any means, but very impressed by nonetheless the poise and the focus of the Celtics after, I believe it was game 2, in the locker room, Joe Mazzulla told him, this team is challenging how bad you actually want this. And they're testing your resolve. How far are you willing to go to beat them and to pull out wins in this series? And the Celtics, you can see how they responded. Obviously, a huge part of this is Orlando's offense is one of the lowest scoring in the league. And Jack and I talked about this a bunch throughout the series, that there was no shooting variance. It didn't swing positively for Orlando. They just were who they were the entire season. And that is, they can't shoot and they struggle to score. And they need to be propped up on the margins with 21 turnovers, for example, from the Celtics in that Game 3 loss that leads to 26 points for the Magic. But nonetheless, just the physicality. And you have a team, yes, it's so obvious they're playing us like this because they're trying to take us off our game and distract us. But the Celtics stayed locked in. And really the whole series was a great example of it. But the shining one is those final 4 minutes in Game 4, where it's close and the Celtics go on a 16-7 run to pull away. It's a team that showed their championship medal in that instance. And then it was repeatedly on display throughout the series. So that's another layer of what I was impressed by the Celtics. It wasn't just the physical component and Tatum being aggressive, initiating contact to get his baskets, and Jaylen Brown pushing the pace and then blending that with physicality as well. It was the mental resolve of this team and the ability to stay focused as they're literally losing bodies one game after another, and the flagrant fouls are piling up from Orlando. There is a name as we go through the series we're yet to touch on. So, Jack, I'm going to throw it over to you because Kristaps Porzingis, yes, the Celtics did figure out counters to get him going more as the series progressed, but they're going to need more from him moving forward.
Yeah, I did a video on the series the other day. Basically, like, these are the 3 offensive changes that the Celtics made after Game 3. And the way I sort of phrased it was, have you ever seen Toy Story when Buzz Lightyear gets like reset to factory settings? That's what they did with Kristaps. They said, okay,
Great
all
analogy.
that cool stuff.
They found a little button on his back. And
Yeah, all that cool stuff that you've been doing for the past 2 years, post ups, the isolation play, the individual scoring, no more. You're done. You're cut off. And they turned him into, you are 7'2". You're going to go stand around the basket and other people are going to make plays for you. And that's what they did. He slipped screens. He played off the ball and dunked around the rim. He came off screens from Pritchard and Derek White off the ball. And that's all he did. And they gave him a couple like pity post-ups against Corey Joseph and whoever in the games 4 and 5. And guess what? They still didn't work. And you hit the nail on the head. Like you absolutely need him to succeed in those situations, especially once you get into the later rounds where it's the Thunder and you need to bully some of those mismatches because they're switching and rotating, or the Cavs and they take away the Jason Tatum drive and you Kristaps to thrive on a smaller guy like Max Strus or something. You're going to need him to find ways to be effective. And I think a series against the Knicks, should that be the Celtics second round matchup, could actually be good for him because they play drop defense a lot. So he could get more of those pick and pop opportunities and get in the rhythm. But this first series was not it. And it's good to see that the Celtics can find other ways of using Kristaps and being effective with him, but you're going to need him to be, useful in the other scenarios too, as the rounds go on.
Maybe it's time for like Kristaps and Tillman to have like not a couples therapy because they're not a couple, but like maybe they both go to therapy at the same time to get their confidence back.
You didn't have to do that. X didn't do anything to you. Why?
Well, he's on the team. I mean, you
Deep
think
shots.
if they fixed his confidence, you don't think it would help them at all? I think it would be nice to have the extra body active. But Porzingis, like you mentioned the Corey Joseph post-ups, like this is in his head now. I think that's kind of clear. I think they made him uncomfortable and then he got off his game and now it's like, man, I got to start making him soon, right? Like, and they just keep hitting the rim, keep going off of it. I think the best thing Boston can do is, one, keep giving him positive reinforcement even when it's not really going well. Like, just stay by his side. The guy has all season long proven, I mean, his entire Celtic career proven to be a knockdown player from the free throw line, the post, the high post. He does a really great job of scoring from there. He has been a good 3-point shooter too. He was a little shaky at times this season. I think they could also just try and get him going with some of those pick and rolls where he's rolling a little bit earlier. And he had a pretty good game. What was it, Game 4 when they did that? They made the adjustment and he kind of got going, made his first threes, maybe the only threes of the series in that game. I think seeing the ball going, even if you forcibly have to put it through the basket yourself, does help to some degree.
Yeah, he said after game 3 that his shot was feeling, quote, janky. And Joe Mazzulla heard that and said, okay, then no more shots. Just get to the rim and we're going to start going with the dunks. The Magic, they're giving up that back line defensively, especially when we put guys in the corners. They would even, there were instances, I did a video breakdown where they'd have the Jays in each corner. And so now Franz and Paulo or whoever it might be as the low men, they can't really help off. They can kind of just bluff and stunt and try to get back. And the mathematics of it, give up the 2 instead of the 3, as much as you don't want to concede a dunk. But for Kristaps, like you said, Sam, I think there's no denying that it's not a coincidence. He starts off game 4 with a few dunks. Next thing you know, he makes his first 3 of the series. I think that goes hand in hand right there. And against the Knicks, there's going to be plenty of opportunities for him to pop out and get quality looks with just how much attention they have to devote to Jason Tatum in particular coming off screen. So ideally, he fixes this because you know that he's not only going to utilize this time to work with the Celtics staff, but he's going to be consulting and looking at film and getting counsel from the people he works with outside the organization. So one of the things that I trust they're going to look at and at least try to correct it and note to him is on those post-ups that Jack brought up where he's getting these mismatches against some really small guards from Orlando. He was so out of rhythm from a timing perspective where he talked about what made the biggest difference for him in becoming this one of the best post-up mismatches in the league is fewer dribbles. And because he's his size and his build, he's not someone who's really going to like dig in with his base and create space that way. And people, that's how you attack him, right? You get to that lower body, you make him uncomfortable. And so for him, it's fewer dribbles. But you see one too many dribbles against Corey Joseph, and he's kind of out of sync as he's turning around to get his shoulder aligned with the basket, and it's a miss. Things like that. So for Porzingis, I think it's all about going back to the efficiency that got you there, along with whatever more mechanical tweaks they're able to detect from a rough shooting series for him. But if they can get that going, and even at a minimum, if they can just allow him to play with force defensively and be impactful that way in a series like this against the Knicks or the Pistons, that should be okay. It's going to matter more and more, though, as you look towards a potential showdown against the Cavaliers. And definitely if you see the Thunder in the finals or whoever ultimately proves good enough to come out of the West. I didn't anticipate going to this next individual next, but he did come up. He came to mind while we were discussing Porzingis. And that is one of the centers that comes in behind him, Luke Kornet. Jack, I'm curious for your assessment of what you saw from him, because I do think he got better as the series went on, but it definitely was a drop off from the career year that he had during the regular season.
Yeah, I think it was an awkward series for any big not named Al Horford just because of how physical the Magic were. I think Al Horford is best built to sort of deal with that physicality just because he's almost used to it and has seen it more than anybody else. And when you're playing guys in the paint who are willing to push you to the ground, literally, to get a rebound, it's almost like, I don't want to say like Luke was shell-shocked and Kristaps was shell-shocked, but it kind of felt like that at times. I think, like you mentioned, Luke got better as the series went on. He sort of got into that, pick and roll rhythm with Jason Tatum. Game 5, I thought he was a lot better moving off the ball, switching dunker spots, screening off ball for Sam Hauser. Like there were other things he figured out that he could do. But I think in the first few games, he was sort of almost taken out of the series because of how physical the Magic were being. And they were taking away threes, yes, but they were also being really physical inside, fighting for rebounds. So I think they were inherently sort of taking away some of his opportunities there too, because they're also living with a lot of one-on-one matchups. And so the same role that Tatum has the pass to Luke on isn't going to be there because they're playing one-on-one and taking away that so they can live with the Tatum one-on-one mismatch. And so I think sort of like Porzingis, if you fast forward and look ahead to a Knicks series, again, this is just assuming they're up 3-2 right now as we're recording this. So the Pistons could win. But even against the Pistons, like bigs like Karl-Anthony Towns and Jalen Duren, if they play in the drop defense or if they try to, help on a Jason Tatum drive, you'll have some of those passes available to Luke Kornet. And he thrived a lot in that in an earlier season game against the Knicks when Porzingis and I think Al was out. And so I think if you look ahead to future series, there are easy pathways to see Luke Kornet improving. I just think it was a bit of a, oh wow, they're being really physical. I don't know if I'm used to that shell shock in the first couple games of the Magic series for him.
which is funny because he's talked a bunch about he feels like one of those most responsible for the Celtics establishing their physicality. And he feels like when he doesn't provide that, then he's let the team down. And I think it was a huge part. If you remember, he spoke to us, Jack, pretty early in the season about I need to do a better job finding the line in terms of playing with more physicality. And I think once he established that, it's really what set him up for the season that he went on to have. And so for him, and he talked to me about it's front of mind every game. It wasn't just, okay, I know where the line is and how I need to establish it, and we're good now. We're kind of on autopilot in that sense. It's no, that is top of mind and definitely something that I'm actively thinking about going into and during each and every game. So for Kornet, I think it's getting back to that and reestablishing that because it's so important to his success and impact individually, and of course what it does for the team at both ends of the floor. Sam, I understand I'm throwing it to someone with a little bit of a Pistons bias here, given that you are firmly a member of Pistons Nation. But when you look at this series and it's 3-2, but the Pistons have not won a home game in the playoffs since 2008. It's tied for the longest streak in NBA history. So you look at this series, it's 3-2. You've seen the success they've had at Madison Square Garden, but do you think that this ends on their home floor tonight?
I really don't know what to think. By the way, 4-1 at Madison Square Garden this year.
This is true.
Don't worry about it.
Fortress, it is not.
What do you say?
Fortress, it is not.
No, it's not a fortress. Weak garden, no banners in that garden. Very sad place to play basketball, overrated arena. I'm sure Andrew Claudio of Knicks Film Score will be hearing from me, maybe, in the next week or so. No, the Pistons, man. The Pistons, I hate to keep saying this because it's such loser talk, but they are like 2 bad stretches away from having already won this series. Like, it is sad that they lost both home games. Like, if it was the Celtics, I mean, anytime the Celtics lose a home playoff game, I'm upset. Very upset. Last year, Jack can tell you they lose 2 game 2s at home, and I'm like, how are they never going to learn from this? They always lose these home games. Winning at home in the playoffs is important. And as a young team, you're supposed to be able to feed off the crowd. We can't sit here and pretend like the Pistons crowd has not been a good crowd because these people, like you said, are starving for a playoff win. I don't know. I haven't looked at any like betting lines, not to say I'm in a position to be betting at the current moment or would be betting on it. But I feel like they have a good chance. Like, they are due to win one of these home games, right? Like, they have to be. It's just like, there's no way they lose all their home games with really good fans. Like, this is sad cope talk. I think they've been better than the Knicks in this series. I really do. Like, they have outplayed the Knicks probably every game except game 3, like wholeheartedly. Game 1, they dominate the game and they collapse. Can't make an excuse. Bad collapse. Game 2, they win. Game 3, I thought the Knicks made everything difficult on them. It felt like the Pistons had to work really hard for everything they got. Meanwhile, the Knicks played really well. Game 4, they blew it. They have that Dennis Schroeder, Tim Hardaway Jr. third quarter 2-on-0, and they get nothing. They don't beat the buzzer. They lose by 1. Like, is the Tim Hardaway Jr. foul call controversial? Yes, but I don't really feel bad because they left 2 points on the board. And then they win game 5. I think it's very plausible.
They also got a great look from Cade Cunningham right before the Tim Hardaway play.
They sure did. So, do I think it's out of the realm of possibility they win tonight? No. I just think they haven't like done anything to make me feel like they're guaranteed going to win, but they also have not diminished any trust. Like, I legitimately don't know how to feel.
Well, Jack, I'm curious to see how you feel about it and whether you buy into the idea of law of percentages ultimately swings in their favor when they need it most. And I mean, Tobias Harris gave him 17 points the other night. Azar Thompson has been excellent for them and had 22 at MSG. Do you feel like Detroit forces a game 7?
Listen, I've said it since the start of the series. I think the Knicks are going to win just because I don't think like it's the classic young team, inexperienced, isn't going to be able to show up. Like Sam, you mentioned they're this 2 moments away from a sweep. That's because they're a young team. Like that's the moments that get to a young team. Those are the moments that sway a series because they are not used to being in those moments. I still think the Knicks close it out. I don't know if that is in game 6 or game 7. I know the Pistons are really good at Madison Square Garden, so like that'll be the whole thing going back if they do force a game 7. But I don't know. I just don't see the Knicks losing unless they continue to get hurt. Then I guess anything can happen. But I think the Knicks are just gonna win the series.
Yeah, keep in mind, we talk about the butterfly effect and what could have been for the Pistons, Sam. If Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson don't get injured, they stay in the game the other night, and that might have swung the outcome to where Thibodeau isn't holding on to that last timeout as they watch from the scorer's table, and ultimately the lead is too big, too late to overcome. I feel like, I know it's crazy to think they're really going to lose again and they're not going to win at home this entire series and extend this drought that again dates back to 2008. Yeah, I'm with Jack. I think that happens. I would love to see a game 7. I
No,
don't
you
think it's
wouldn't.
in the cards.
Don't lie. You
What's that?
you guys have skin in the game. Don't lie. You want the Knicks to win. And
I
that's
have
okay.
I have not perjured myself, sir. I wanted a game 7 last year between the Knicks and the Pacers, and then game 7 arrived. And we were at the Auerbach Center, and I started saying to people, if the Knicks are out of gas, it doesn't matter that this game is at Madison Square Garden and the place is going to be electric. There's nothing they can do to recharge that stamina bar if it's on empty. And it was apparent from the jump that that was the case for New York. And they made a little bit of a run in the third quarter against the Pacers, but they just didn't have it in them that day. So like Jack said, maybe the injuries help sway this, and there is a game 7. I would love one. I don't think there is. That's my prediction there. Jack, you talked about, hey, if they get the Pistons and it's Jalen Duren and drop coverage and this and that. Celtics fans are well aware of what it looks like when they play New York. But are there any changes? Is there anything different you think from the Knicks? Or they just kind of try it again and hope for a better outcome if they see the Celtics?
I don't think they have another option. I don't know what the Knicks can do that is different, because Cat can't guard the perimeter, and so you can't play switching defense. Maybe your solution is double bigs, and you run Mitchell Robinson and Karl Anthony Towns, and you throw that at a wall and see if it sticks. But even then, that still doesn't solve your offensive problem of Mitchell Robinson on the floor, ignore him, because that's what they do with Josh Hart. It's Josh Hart's on the floor, ignore him. And then Brunson, who's always going to be on the floor, also can't guard. And so they've built an imperfect team, right? And which is fine. Like it's hard to build a perfect team. There are very few in the NBA who have fully perfect teams. I think there's 2. I think it's the Celtics and the Thunder. And it's possible for those teams to lose based on variance alone. Like if the Celtics have a bad shooting series and Josh Hart makes all his threes, then you see a world where the Knicks could win the series. But outside of praying for variance, I don't think there's much the Knicks can do. I just think the Celtics are better.
Sam, your outlook?
We all watch the games this year. I think all the Knicks can do is try their best, cross their fingers, and maybe hope that something breaks their way, because they cannot compete with the Celtics. They are a joke. Like, they have no depth. The guys that they brought in to give the Celtics problems haven't really delivered on that just yet. OG is quality. I think he is maybe their second best player at times, right? Like, he's for real. He can play both sides of the ball. He's probably a little bit underrated in the fact that, like, we all look at him as just like a defensive wing. Meanwhile, Mikal Bridges, I almost said Michael because he's garbage time Jordan. I mean, he does not move me. He's been not good in this Pistons series. He hasn't been good against the Celtics this year. He's been very bad defensively against the Celtics this year. Tatum sees him on him, and it's like, if there was a camera that was always following Tatum, he would like look back and smirk like he's Jim from The Office. Like, oh, you put him on me again? Like, I'm just going to score. They haven't really held their end of the bargain when it comes to trying to slow down the Celtics. And I mean, they swept him this year. The last game goes to overtime. What I'll say about the Knicks is the lone thing that makes me not even like worry, but just like be a bit more skeptical of like, oh man, they're going to sweep them, is I think Mitchell Robinson adds a little bit of a like layer to this, similar to what we've seen with the Magic, where he is going to attack the offensive glass. And the Celtics did not do a great job of combating that, at least at all times in the Magic series. They did a good enough job. But I think the Knicks are a far better offensive team than the Magic are. So they're not as good at defense for what it's worth. So you have to give and take. But you're not going to get away with giving up extra possessions or going scoreless for stretches, and you look up at the scoreboard and it's still only a 6-point game. Like, the Knicks will make you pay for your mistakes a little bit more than the Magic will. However, I don't think they're really going to be able to force as many mistakes.
Yeah, I just think, they put this team together, and I think a lot of us were pointing out as soon as they did that, okay, this is great that you have two excellent perimeter defensive wings that can contribute and shoot at the other end of the floor. But at the same time, you have Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns on your team, and defensively, those are not pillars you want. Those are seals that the Celtics are going to attack relentlessly. And so you've turned yourself into a team that doesn't match up with the Celtics. And on top of it, the price they paid to get Bridges, a 0-time All-Star at this point in his career when he's already reached his prime, it's not like he's 23 and just hasn't had time to get to that stage, and someone who clearly cannot be the number 2 on a title team. Yeah, like the fraternity thing with the Nova Knicks is cool, but winning championships is even better. And they kind of, in my estimation, punted on that at least this season, and probably beyond it with the price they paid to get him. So I look at the Knicks, and on one hand, I think they're going to steal from the Magic's playbook. Who wouldn't, in terms of this is a war, let's be extra physical, even more so than we might have been, naturally inclined to, because I don't think that's Bridges' style at all. But I think Thibodeau is going to implore this team, and that the crowd at MSG, when the games are there, if they are, Sam, respect to your Pistons, I think that they're going to be more physical than the regular season for sure, at a minimum. But at the same time, especially like if it's close late, you just have two guys there in Brunson and Towns. There's no getting away from them being easy targets. They can try different things, ice it, on the pick and roll, and try and live with long range threes, meet them at the line and all that. But there's always counters to the counter. And when you have bad defenders, they don't always execute. So I have a lot of questions about the Knicks. I think Knicks fans look at this series and enjoy this team, but they don't realistically expect the Knicks to beat the Celtics if they square off again. And the Pistons, it's much easier to duplicate the physicality of the Magic. They're more built like that, but the offense just is not there. The shooting is not there. The depth is not there. There are a bunch of targets defensively on that team as well, from Tobias Harris to anyone they bring in on the second unit, and a couple in the starting lineup as well. So I look at the Celtics, and there's a reason that we think Eastern Conference Finals, probably a return trip to the NBA Finals, but we'll see, Sam. Maybe your Pistons ultimately provide some type of an upset here, and we're spoiled and don't get the Knicks-Celtics second round series that we anticipated receiving last year.
I think it's a win-win for me, because if the Knicks lose, and that'll be hilarious after all the talk about them being like the other team to beat in the East. And then if the Pistons lose, I don't have to turn my back on them. Like, that would hurt me. It would make me really sad to have to be like, yeah, I actually hate Cade Cunningham, and I hate the PA announcer that says Detroit basketball. Like, that's the worst thing ever. It sucks. But right now it rocks. I love it. Goosebumps when the ball goes out of bounds.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoy that. Shout out to the PA announcer there. What a legend. Jack, this is going to be our last question here. It's going to be for both of you, but we start with Mr. Simone. What was more beneficial to the Celtics long-term? So not just second round, but looking ahead throughout this playoff run and the hope for Banner 19. What was more beneficial? Dealing with a Magic team that forced you to win left-handed, so to speak, where they're taking away your threes and just limiting attempts at a dramatic rate, where Boston's 11th in that category in the playoffs in round one, or having to combat the physicality that the Magic forced them to fight through?
I think it's a little of both, and because I would go with the physicality, though. Because I think when I'm looking at it, I look at it from a lens of the Thunder, because nobody else in the East really plays like that. There's no other team in the East who has nobody to attack on defense to the point where you're playing one-on-one and finding creative ways to get open. That's just not like the style anybody else in the Eastern Conference plays. That's kind of how the Thunder play, but the difference is the Thunder give up threes. They give up 3-pointers and rely on their other guys to close out fast. And they do a great job at rotating. I think I said it when they played the Celtics. I think they're the best rotating team I've seen. But they still give up those threes. And so I think the Celtics can get up threes against the Thunder. And so because of that, the physicality, the Thunder toe the line of, we're going to foul you every possession and bank on them not calling it. That's just what they do. That's how good teams, defensive teams, play in the NBA nowadays. That's fine. And if you can get away with it, you get away with it. But they average, like, I think, top 5 to 7 most fouls in the NBA. And so learning to play through that, I think, will have helped the Celtics should they get to a point where they get to play the Thunder.
Yeah, I felt like I said it to you guys in the press room on Sunday, and I talked about the second half of Game 5 earlier in this show. But it really felt like Forrest Gump having the leg braces break off his legs as he's running, and then he can just go into a full sprint. Like, the Celtics, as you put it, Bobby, it felt like they did have to kind of play left-handed, where it was like not really the way they wanted to do it, still capable. I just think, I don't know. It sounds so ridiculous to be like, doesn't really get harder.
Tough time for Sam to cut out. But once again, Sam, a great thumbnail as you freeze right here. Somehow the Michael Jordan of that.
I'm back. I think I'm back.
Incredible.
Back in the
Welcome
game.
back.
Yeah, it's weird to be like, I don't think it gets harder than the Orlando Magic, but here we are, where you're looking down the barrel of Knicks or Pistons, who are combined 7-1 against this season. Granted, I think the Pistons kind of like figured something out mid-season, and the Celtics played them a few times earlier in the year, so I think that's a little skewed, but they owned the Knicks all year, and that, as of now, feels like the more likely matchup. So, I don't know, man. I think until you get to the finals, you really... Why did none of us respect the Cavs at all? Like, and I'm not saying we're wrong to or like not to. We just continue to overlook them. I don't really buy them. I just think maybe it's because they don't have, besides Mitchell, like a mega star that you're like terrified of. Mitchell, the all-time points per game leader against the Celtics, but like, is it because they have Garland, who you feel like you can really go at and pick on the way the Celtics would want to? I maybe we don't even know if they're going to get to the conference finals. Pacers are for real. Pacers are a good team, but I think the finals is like the first time you're really like worried about anything.
Pacers are for real. I think that series has the potential to go 7. I don't know if it will, and I'm not going to pick Indiana to advance, but that would be a fun Eastern Conference Finals rematch, and certainly the respect factor goes up if the Pacers survive. With Cleveland, I mean, I suppose it's disrespectful if you're not picking them to win the championship. Like, anytime you have them losing a series, I guess that's disrespect. But if you're giving them all this praise beforehand while saying the most talented roster in the NBA is likely to beat them again, I don't know how disrespectful that is. Like, there's plenty of credit they deserve, including the roster construction, moves made at the deadline, where Kyle Anderson is saying that, if you want my honest answer, I think they were a tougher team without Darius Garland on the floor. And if you believe that as a Cavs fan, the luxury is you don't need him on the floor at crunch time, as they've demonstrated they're willing to cycle through different lineup combinations. So I like Cleveland a lot. No one would be stunned. No one would be shell-shocked if they beat the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. But at the same time, from this vantage point and seeing the Celtics on a game-by-game basis, none of us here are going to pick them to win. And I think we're probably going to be proven right on that, Jack.
Yeah, I just think the biggest factor to the Celtics versus Cavs is, can Donovan Mitchell put up 25 points in every single fourth quarter? Can he? Yeah, he can, absolutely. And if he does that, they'll probably win the series. But if he can, I think it'll be the Celtics. Every game they've played has been close until Donovan Mitchell has turned into Superman. And if he can do that again, that's great. If the Celtics can stop him, then that's what they're going to have to do to win. But the reality is the Celtics can get a shot they're comfortable with on every single possession against the Cavaliers. Because even the Cavs' best defenders, quite literally the defensive player of the year, got played off the floor for stretches in their last matchup because Jason Tatum was cooking him. And when you have a lineup built like that, it's going to be hard to beat a team consistently. And I think they finished the season series 2-2. But they were hurt in some matchups, and the Cavs were hurt in some matchups. And I think people laugh when you say those two things, because the Celtics were missing, I think, like Jalen and/or Derek in some matchups, and/or Kristaps, and the Cavs were missing like a Dean Wade. But like, every piece matters. Like, truly, this isn't like a joke. Like, Dean Wade matters. These players matter because they're bodies you can throw at Jason Tatum. And I just think the way the Celtics can score so consistently against the Cavs lineup is what will put them over the top in that series. But again, if the contingency factor is, can Donovan Mitchell average 40, he absolutely can, and that would sway the series probably.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about how we've entered this era of weak link basketball now, and the weakest links on the floor in a playoff series between the Celtics and Cavs are defenders on Cleveland that are easy to target, like a Darius Garland. And the fact that, as you brought up there, Jack, it's an excellent point. Evan Mobley gets played off the floor at times against the Celtics, courtesy of Tatum. That's a massive problem for Cleveland to try and overcome if it presents itself again. So I'm with you. I think the Celtics are the better balanced team. And when you look at the weakest links, Sam, I think those fall on the side of Cleveland.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the Celtics do not have really a weak link. Like, even somebody like Pritchard, who people are like, look at him. He definitely can't defend. He did a pretty good job. Like, there was a lot of discussion this series about him taking on the Drew Holiday role once Holiday had that hamstring strain, which I think we're all not really thrilled about. I don't think any of us anticipate him being back like super soon. The Monday series start is certainly helpful for that, but a strain is a strain. That's serious stuff. But he did a good job of not really getting picked on effectively. And I think Pritchard is one of those guys who's willing to battle. So it's really difficult to find somebody on the Celtics so you're like, yeah, that guy, go at him, go ahead. Whereas, like, is Darius Garland essential to the Cavs recipe? No, but I'm sure it's sick for them to have him out there. Like, I would want the guy that is, probably top 15, 20 scorer in the league on the floor for my team. Yeah, I would. And it sucks that he has to get played off. Same with Mobley, who, as Jack said, despite his hardware Defensive Player of the Year award, is someone that they feel like they might be able to exploit as well. Same with Jared Allen, who falls into that category big time with the perimeter switches.
For sure. And with Drew Holiday, it's huge that he gets a week off. If this hamstring is mild enough where it needs 3 weeks and you get pretty much a full one out of just an in-between rounds 1 and 2 gap, massive. Why it was so important for the Celtics to take care of business, although he was not going to play if there was a game 6. And me and Jack were back at Gatorland in Orlando. So with Drew Holiday, I would not be the least bit surprised if it's a mid-round return here against most likely the Knicks, but possibly Sam's Pistons. And it still concerns me even when he comes back, because it's so taxing what he's going to be jumping into and just so much of a strain that he's putting on that injury. So we'll see how he holds up if he comes back and is totally fine. It's definitely encouraging, Sam, like you brought up, that Pritchard, he did such a good job against Banchero and Wagner, and those are younger players with flaws, but the approach is the approach. He did it against Cade Cunningham and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and on down line, he did against Luka Doncic even when the Lakers came to Boston. So Pritchard has really stepped up and had a career year that includes at the defensive end of the floor. I talked to him about it for an exclusive for Forbes, and he attributed it primarily to his work in the weight room. He said getting faster, which is pretty impressive for someone with his quickness and speed, getting stronger, getting in better shape. So for Pritchard, that work in the gym has certainly paid off on the court. And what we're seeing is it might matter even more to the Celtics now with Holiday's hamstring injury than Sam, perhaps even they anticipated.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the fact that he's been ready anytime his number's been called this year has been really impressive. And I feel like the Pritchard being ready for the moment thing has gone back quite a while. One of my favorite, this is just such a me random thing that I do. When I'm out running and I'm super tired, I love to listen to basketball highlights. It kind of gives me like a little extra juice. Like there's a crowd going crazy. I love the 17-point comeback against the Nets in game 2 from 2022 in the first round. Pritchard had 10 points in the fourth quarter. He hits this crazy step back over Seth Curry. Like he's a second-year player at that point in a playoff series that is like this super high stakes moment. Kyrie's back. Durant's on the other side too. Like people thought it was going to be a long fought out 7-game type deal. He's not afraid. Granted, it's not like he's being defended by an all defensive player in Seth Curry, but he still
also
has
had good on-ball defense against Kyrie though. And that's a big time situation for a young player to step into.
Exactly. And he was just ready for the moment. I don't think the lights have ever been too bright for him, maybe down in Orlando, but that's neither here nor there. I just think that he is someone who is never going to be afraid. And he kind of talked about it when they had him come up to the podium when he won the Sixth Man of the Year. And he was like, well, like, I don't really think I've ever needed validation, but this is a cool moment to be recognized league wide. And it makes me not want to stop. Like, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to go as far as I can.
Yeah, he's definitely someone with a growth mindset. Jack, if you want to touch on that, by all means. Otherwise, the option is yours. The alternative path is you plug anything you want from social media and TikTok, Jack, the work you do there, which is of course exceptional. Or if you want to chime in on Pritchard and Drew Holiday and all that, you go right ahead. The ball's in your court.
I think you guys covered most of it. I was very impressed with the way he was able to still have an impact without shooting because of the way the Magic were taking away the threes. I will say though, in the vein of Sam listening to highlights while he's running. So my girlfriend has never, like, she doesn't like basketball, doesn't really watch basketball, but I sent her Mike Breen bang compilation. And she last night she looked at me, she goes, what was that? What was that thing you sent me? He was like, boom. I was like, do you mean bang?
She's actually getting Mike Breen confused with the Costco guys.
That's what I thought too, but no. I thought that was a funny instance. But no, I think you guys covered it with Pritchard and with Drew Holiday. Just blanked. Drew Holiday, who just won the Sportsmanship Award, which I was distracted with as well. So shout out to Drew Holiday. But as far as plugs, I mean, Sam will say it as well as I can. Subscribe to Bout Them Celtics. We'd appreciate it very much. He's got the hat. I assume he's pulling out. Absolutely. I'm on every social media you can fathom at Jack Simone NBA, except for Facebook. I don't have a Facebook, but we have a Facebook. If you want to go to the How About Them Celtics Facebook, you can go to that one.
We have over 1,000 Facebook followers, actually. Shout out to the people.
We do. Shout out. But that's all I got. Thanks, Bobby. Appreciate you.
Always, anytime, Jack. Thank you for being a good friend of the program. Sam, anything you want to plug?
Yeah. Go over to YouTube. How About Them Celtics? We're there every single day with new stuff. So if you have a Celtics itch, we'll scratch it for you. We promise. That is our one duty we will always fulfill. You can also find me on Twitter at Sam LaFrance NBA, and I'm putting up whatever I'm working on there, or I'm trolling, or whatever it may be. Thanks again, Bobby. I mean, we love you.
Without a doubt, much love. Goes both ways. Appreciate y'all for coming on once again and being so supportive. Thank you for everyone who tuned in to this edition of the Celtics Rundown live stream right here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. We will be back after game 1. I will let y'all know at what time, as well as who's joining us on that edition of the Celtics Rundown live stream.